the number of people that are here, I'm absolutely amazed. I cannot believe it. I thought half of you would go home. Anyway, so I'm very pleased that you are here. I can only come to the conclusion that reward is very close to everyone's hearts. Anyway, what I've done, I'm following exactly the same process, but I've taken the liberty of just adding 1 or 2 extra slides in for a little bit of context, because if I had to ask anyone who is in reward to put their hand up. So I kind of suspected that there would be a lot of HR people that you may know quite a bit about reward, but you don't actually work in it. So forgive me, but I've assumed that a little bit of knowledge might be worthwhile. Okay, I'm not going to go to that. If we look at the reward standard element, and I've got a little pointer here. So if we look at that to guide HR generalists in bringing their reward practices to a fully professional level with sound governance. And I think we quite often see companies certainly are not following good governance, and that's been a huge change in the reward area. To regulate inconsistent reward standards, and then they're vastly underlying different principles, and that's what we're trying to fix today, if you can call it that. Okay, I just put in an example of something that depends the way you look at it, doesn't it? So anyway, we won't ask Lance Armstrong about that. And then just to give a little bit of context, because reward has really changed recently and standards are needed. So I just want to give you a little bit of a taste of standards around the world. And if we start here, Canada looks at pay risk, what they call pay risk. USA, reasonable compensation. You've all seen the levels of compensation in our newspapers. Go to America, you can multiply, we'll just take our numbers and just put a dollar sign in front of it. If we look at the UK, that's quite a big thing. They vote on your remuneration policy. South Africa, we vote on it, but it's not binding. And then afterwards, which is very much what we're doing today, they look historically and say, how did you implement it? How? So the policy is fine, but how did you actually do it? And then the Swiss, they call it, being Swiss, they're very careful. They call it the Minor Initiative. It's actually called the Fat Cat Initiative. And it's about limiting pay for CEOs and directors. Australia, the 2-strike rule. If a board fails its remuneration policy vote twice, it has to resign, the whole board. And then South Africa, and you'll know about King 3 and Creaser. But these are codes. So they're actually, they're not standards, if I can call it that. And that's what we're trying to do today. The EU is a banker's bonus cap, and so you can see all around the world this is happening. And if we come up with reward standards, we kind of will be at least aligning ourselves with the world, but we can come up with sensible ones as an HR fraternity instead of being forced into standards like the capping of bonuses that's come through shareholders. You'll know about the wage gap. South Africa has got one of the worst wage gaps in the world. And any remuneration or reward standards should try to address that. And then this is obviously income. We spoke in everything that I've looked at today, we speak about the business. Figures come from the head, they want profits. And the demands come from the heart at home. And the reality is that food, petrol, you all have experienced it. These prices are going up. And if you don't have standards to drive your reward or remuneration, then you can end up with total inequity.